This is Scott Callahan from the Aesthetic Dish, and we are now in episode 3. I am so excited because we have some very, very interesting guests today. The first guest that I have today is one of my favorite injectors in the country. Her name is Lindsay Bright. She's a nurse practitioner at Flawless Chattanooga, and she is an up-and-coming rising star. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, and I am excited to talk to you and talk about all the issues we're talking about today. My next guest is, again, a great guy who has a great company, and we're here to talk about that company. This is Phil Stamper, who's the president of Med Aesthetics, and he leads the Best Aesthetic Injectors in America Top 100 Awards. And welcome to the guest.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Phil, are you excited to be here?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Phil, where do you live?
Right now, it's the time between Utah and Florida, but my company's based out of Utah, Park City, Utah.
All right. Well, Connecticut's, we're excited to have you here. Finally, my last guest is Chris Murray, who's the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships in Revision Skincare, and a great guy. There's the party of parties. He will always be there. He is the man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
And where are you coming from today?
I'm in Denver, Colorado.
All right.
Heading back on the road this week, but I'm based out of Denver, but you'll see me just about anywhere.
All right. So we have 4 states. We have a great discussion ahead of us, and here we go. So starting off, I just wanted, we'll start with Lindsay. Lindsay, tell me a little bit about your practice.
Okay, so I own Flawless Aesthetics in Chattanooga. I opened it a year ago. I had worked for plastic surgeons for many years and just decided to go out on my own.
How many years have you been an injector?
12 years.
12 years. And your business is doing very well, right?
Yes.
You're hitting top numbers. You just bought a Silfirm, right, yesterday?
Yes, yesterday.
And you guys, I met some of your injectors. They're doing incredibly well. In your company, how do you advertise? How do you publicize your company to Chattanooga area?
So we obviously do a lot of social media. I have one person that handles that. I'm not good at that, so I had to have somebody. Billboards, we get in like the local magazines, and really we just are in the community doing a lot of things.
Right. I mean, what do you think you average, let's say, a month for advertising? Do you have any idea?
I'd say probably around $4,000 a month.
Yeah. So most med spas probably range anywhere between $4,000 to $15,000 if they're lucky. Bigger places, $30,000, $40,000 a month in marketing. But the point is that in marketing we do a lot of stuff, right? We do advertising, billboards, radio shows, TV shows, and some of the advertising that we do isn't worth it, right?
Right.
So, like for example, I was on TV shows and I did billboards, and that was like branding, but it really didn't bring anybody in, right? I've done like local ads that maybe was okay, but we know that the best source of patients for us is referrals, right? From other patients.
Word of mouth.
Or word of mouth, right? And sometimes that's a little bit harder to organically grow quick enough to pay the bills, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, did you ever do any advertising, through the top 100
Yes.
stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do?
So for 2 years, they had reached out to me, and of course I was honored, and I started advertising with them, and it grew me as an injector as far as getting me on the map. Not to sound like I'm cocky or anything, but I was a good injector. But what happened was I was lost under a plastic surgeon. So I was known as his nurse practitioner, not as Lindsay Bright. And I was good. I built his practice up. But I just needed my name out there. I needed to make connections, but I didn't know how. And so that kind of gave me the opportunity to do that.
Right. I feel like a lot of us have those same stories that we worked under a plastic surgeon or dermatology so-and-so, and we're just like under essentially that shadow, right?
Yeah.
And to make your own name is hard.
It's
when
hard.
I did my first symposium, Erica Berry and Audrey Rose and Larry Blevins and all these guys were all there, right? But about half of the people that were there did not own their own med spa. Didn't know how to start their own med spa.
Mm-hmm.
They were just evolving, and I think that as nurse practitioners and PAs, this is somewhat new to us, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't also know how typically business degrees. So we're trying to figure and navigate it through without really essentially expertise to do so, right?
Yeah.
All right. And then, so talking about expertise, we go to my second guest, which is Phil Stamper. So Phil, tell me a little bit about you. The world wants to know how this business started and where you're from. So if you could just give us a little bit of background about you.
Oh, perfect. Now, I come from a marketing background, essentially, and in 2018, I had been doing some consulting work for marketing consulting for med spas, and in doing so, I was actually helping an injector open her own practice and was looking into parallel industries, kind of what they were doing marketing-wise that didn't really exist within the aesthetic community at the time. And in looking at like dentistry and plastic surgery, you could see that it evolved, much further than aesthetics, with aesthetics being so new. So the one thing that I really noticed was there was no, kind of governing body. It's like the wild, wild west out there, and there was nothing that kind of let people know who the who's who were in the industry other than just Yelp reviews and opinions. And so I knew that there was space to form sort of an organization that for the betterment of the industry, to provide real factual information about the who's who. And I set out to do that. And so with my company, Med Aesthetics America, there's basically two sides to it that I think a lot of people don't understand, and that's the real issue that we get caught up in. First and foremost, we are a marketing platform. We have the National Directory of Recommended Providers, which is exactly that. It's a nationwide directory of injectors that are invited to be in it based on either a peer recommendation of someone like yourself, Scott, who's respected in the industry, or based on the quality of their work and their actual experience in the industry, and where they're located and how many other injectors we may have that are already listed in that, because it's obviously based on population of any one area. We don't want to oversaturate that, because then it takes away from these people and their title as a Best Aesthetic Injectors recommended provider across the country. And yes, that is a paid marketing spot like any other directory would be, whether you want to list yourself with New Beauty or Real Self or the Yellow Pages or any of that. There's all cost. It's a marketing expense that drives traffic to your practice. And I think we've proven time and time again that there's a good ROI with that business model and with our directory. And the proof is in the pudding. It's just based on the number of renewals we get annually. But I would say we're in the 85-90% of the people that are in the directory renew that listing every year.
Phil, before you go into the second part of it, was Lindsay in that first part of it, in the first year or two, where she was a paid advertising directory?
Absolutely, that's what she
Yeah.
is. That's what she currently still is. She's one of our recommended providers throughout the country, and she's our girl in the Chattanooga area that we drive traffic to.
And you were in this directory for about a year or two, so you saw that grow your numbers. And how did it grow your numbers?
So I'm in Chattanooga. There's a ton of people, but I started getting people from Nashville, Knoxville, Atlanta, and I would ask them, "How did you find me?" "Oh, well, I saw this on social media, this top 100 aesthetic injectors, and your name was there."
Got it.
And then I looked up your social media, saw your work, and now I'm here.
Got it.
And I pay $2,000 a month for a billboard, and I maybe have one or two people say, "Oh, I saw you on a billboard."
Right.
Right. So it just really grew my practice. It was unreal. It kind of put me on the map,
Right.
if you will.
So Phil, this is the directory that gets the most criticism from the country and from the Instagram posts and stuff, where people say you're paying for advertising. But what's the difference of her paying that, like she said, in front of the billboards or magazines or anything else that she would do?
Oh, there's not. I don't think that's where the criticism comes in. I think it's the second part of our business is we host an annual Top 100 award. They're completely separate. The marketing platform side of the National Directory of Recommended Providers has nothing to do and no bearing on who makes our Top 100 each year. The Top 100 contest, like I said, is just an annual award that's based on peer nominations and real patient votes. Nobody can pay to be on that list. There's no nepotism. We don't pick that top 100. It's solely based on nominations and votes, and whoever wins wins. The cards fall where they may, and no one can pay for that. And we don't generate any income from that outside of our sponsors. And basically, if we're being very blunt to the industry, part of the reason that it's valuable for us is the data grab we get from the votes. When people vote, they're sending in emails. We are then capturing people's information that are interested in aesthetics.
Right.
So that's the value to us. We're not making any money off of it. People can't pay to be in it. But at the same time, that's valuable to our sponsors.
Sure.
It's valuable to our organization.
So just to be clear,
And it's completely separate from the top 100.
What you're saying is, you're saying that the people that are voting could be the people, their friends, their staff, their other colleagues, right? They're legitimately voting for these people, right?
Correct.
And you're saying transparently, look, we have a data grab, and this is where we're getting the information to continue our advertising and our means, right?
Absolutely.
So again, what's wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I think the biggest criticism that we get is people that don't understand or haven't taken the time to inform themselves on exactly how we operate and what we do. They think that the directory and the top 100 are one and the same, when that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, in any 1 year, this will be our 6th year of doing the top 100 award. I think at the most, maybe 30 people of the top 100 in one specific year had actually chose to advertise themselves in our directory as well, once invited. And so they are completely separate. Just because you make the top 100 doesn't mean you have to be in the directory, and it doesn't mean that you are put in the directory. It's completely separate. You obviously, as a top 100 injector, have the opportunity, if you choose to pay us to be in the national directory, but it's not given for free, because like I said, that one doesn't have anything to do with the other. But as far as like the criticism and stuff we get, I think a big part of it is there's a lot of people that have opinions in this industry. There's a lot of ego, there's things like that, but when you get some people in the industry that might have a little bit of credibility and they want to speak their opinions as facts about something that's truly just an assumption because they haven't taken the time to look into it, other people around them won't do the research. They'll just take their word to be true, and then it ends up being like the telephone game we played in grade school, where I would tell Lindsay something in her ear and she would tell you, and it would get passed down the line, and then by the time it got to the end, it's not even the same story. It's so blown out of proportion, and it's this crazy, hey, this organization's out to scam you and take your money and do all this stuff, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, truth is we're here for the betterment of the industry. We're here to, take care of stuff, and that's where our business is growing and headed toward.
I want to get back to that in a bit, but before we do, let's pull Chris into this. So Chris, again, how many years have you been working in the aesthetic industry?
Years and years. 17 years now.
17 years. So multiple companies. What kind of companies have you worked for?
So I got my start out with a small company called Medicis. Medicis was really a pharmaceutical company, also had aesthetics, at that time. I went to Galderma after that, and I was blessed enough to move 5 times with that company. So I moved to many different markets, and I think that's where my value comes from. Is I've seen what good looks like, I've seen what bad looks like, and then I see what special looks like. And as I moved across the country, you collect special, you take that with you, and as you go across the country, you bring this tribe of people that really just become your support system, and that's the beautiful part of aesthetics. Doesn't matter what your designation is. I come from injectables, now I'm in skincare. So I went to Revision Skincare in 2019. It was a much smaller company, but you learn so much more by taking on that challenge and becoming part of the commercial team with our CEO, Maria Carell, and our VP of Sales, Bob Ingersoll, veterans of this industry that have been around forever. You learn how to run a business. And so this company, during COVID did very well. We didn't have any layoffs. We actually put cash back into our accounts. We became partners at a stronger level, which is really where the VP of Strategic Partnerships came from. And that's really just to help drive brand awareness, Revision Skincare. Because, unlike injectables, where there's only 2 or 3, competitors, skincare, we compete with everybody, whether you want to or not.
Right.
So.
Lindsay, have you heard of Revision Skincare before?
I have, yeah. I
Yeah.
used it at my old practice.
I mean, it is a sexy product, right?
Yeah.
It's all black, right? Incredible products.
The neck firming neck cream. We
Yeah,
would
we're
go
known,
crazy
we're
over
known
that.
for neck to firm, neck to firm
Yeah.
advance. You know, we've got some really cool innovation. We do all our own development in-house. We do all our own manufacturing. So we manufacture in Dallas. So we have like 29 PhDs on staff. We really take it seriously and go to a level where the FDA doesn't have to, we don't have to go to the level that we are, but we feel we need to prove what we're saying, to be able to be at the table that you guys are sitting at right now.
Yeah, our patients are in love with about 4 products. They just can't get enough of. Nectafirm, as you mentioned, is one of them. T-Mine, which is for under eyes, is incredible. Another one that's really awesome is called the Line Relaxer.
Yeah.
I call it Reebox 8 because it used to be called Reebox 7. But it makes your like your lines and wrinkles go away. It extends the effect of the toxin that I give to patients. They absolutely love it, even though the company doesn't want to claim that. I think that's exactly what it does. And then finally, they have just a bunch of other cool products, like products that just work in a bunch of ways. So when I talk to patients about revision, I talk about product meets procedure. If we're doing tear draws, we're talking about T-Mine. If we're talking about their toxin, we talk about their line relaxer. And so sometimes you can even like bundle it into packages. And so you guys are brilliant with your marketing, right? You do great marketing.
Yeah, we have a really cool niche. You know, we're in this aesthetic market, and to your point, we're bringing products out that are specifically proven to be procedure paired. So a lot of people can come into your office and say, we think you should do this. That's an opinion. If I can show scientific fact, IRB approved, placebo controlled, multi-center, like actual injectable level studies on skincare products, I'm proving to you with fact that you're going to get a better result. And oh, by the way, it does help business-wise as well. It's a whole new revenue stream.
Right.
And people come back to refill constantly, and they're coming back quicker than 3 to 4 months with neurotoxins.
Right. So, Chris, you and I have known each other for a couple of years. We're always go to the same conferences. I'm a trainer at multiple places. You tend to be, like I said, with the big conferences, the big parties. You know the industry well. You're familiar with thousands of injectors, and they're familiar with you. Have you heard of this situation going on with the criticism of the best aesthetic injectors?
Yes, I think there's a couple things going on. I think I've just loved meeting Phil over the last day, just listening to how he thinks, because I think it's a big risk. First of all, let's just assume there's 250,000 injectable providers in the U.S. And you and I have talked about that number, 250,000. If you're selecting the top 100, 99.9% of injectors are looking at that list and saying, I'm not on it. And we're all competitive. That's one thing that all of us either play a sport or have some kind of competitive streak to be the best. And so you're already alienating a large percentage of people mathematically. And I think what he's doing is setting a bar. And if you want to get across that bar, you're going to go to conferences, you're going to get trained. It doesn't matter if you're an MD, if you're board certified, if you're a plastic surgeon, it doesn't matter. If you're focused on patient results and getting the best patient results, the proof is in the pudding, and you'll see your status rise, like Lindsay has, right? Her exposure outside of her market is a great thing, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So I think setting a bar. Now I understand why there's criticism, like I said, but at least there's a bar. There's nowhere to measure yourself against people except for volume, right? I'm number 10 for Allergan. That's a volume play, not necessarily a skill play. It usually comes hand in hand. But I think setting a bar at the top 100 and have people push to it, train to it, and get there, I think that helps our entire industry raise the bar.
Right. It's clear as night and day to me that when you have competition, right, as you said, it rises people to that level, right? And ultimately, you see the people, some of them, like half of them, are out there criticizing this nomination or this award, yet they very much want to be in the award, right? And because we're all competitive by nature, that's natural, right? And the truth of the matter is that, as Phil said, there are 2 parts of this. He's very transparent about the marketing and the paid advertisement part, right? And the data grab, that's clear. So again, like the other part of it, to me, is great. And we have used the top 100 list in the last several years. And the reason why we did is because I didn't know all the people in the country, right? I wouldn't know anyone from Tennessee or from Kansas or from California. How would I be able to know them? And so it allowed me to like literally just like cold call them and say, look, would you want to be part of my symposium? Would you want to be part of my training? And I have met so many people from across the country that not only participated with me, but guess what? Also made me better, right? Because I learned from them.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a wonderful award, and there, you know, I just don't see what the issue is. Phil, getting back to you, so what are like the worst criticisms you've gotten from this, and how have you been able to fend this off? I mean, obviously these criticisms on social media have some elements of defamation inside. I mean, you're as good as your your credibility, right?
Right.
So how have you fended this off, and what kind of problems lie ahead?
I mean, to be real honest, I haven't fended it off because I don't focus on that. You know, I try to stay above the noise and focus on where the company's going and keeping it on the tracks. But yeah, there has been some stuff, and I feel like it's gotten worse over the years because I mean, everybody can have an opinion, it's fine. But when you start saying things that are just absolutely unfounded based on, oh, well, somebody else told me this, so I'm going to go ahead and just repeat it and regurgitate it without knowing anything factual, it becomes a problem. And a lot of that stuff I can't really get into today, just by advice from my attorneys. But yeah, you know, that's what it is, and it's more unfortunate than is anything. I don't really feel a need to defend my company and who we are. I think our results and the people that we are aligned with speak for itself from across the country. And you know, we're right now focused on our next chapters in growing this industry and becoming a national accreditation body, and looking forward to our next big national summit in the spring in Lake Tahoe.
So, you know, last year I was able to participate, and Lindsay was able to participate in your Top 100 conference. I was in Sarasota, Florida. You know, not knowing you and not knowing much about you, you know, when I showed up to the conference, I was, you know, because it's your first conference, I was wondering how it was going to be, what's the agenda, who's going to be there, right? You know, everyone's kind of thinking, well, are half or 25% of those top 100 actually going to show up for the conference?
Right.
But guess what? We had an incredible conference. They all showed up. All the big names were there. Great lectures, great venue. We had an incredible ship ride, right, with dinner. I mean, it was one of the best conferences I went to all year. And actually, I learned a lot. Larry's lecture on lasers and some of the other lectures with Jacob Sanchez were amazing. So again, I think that conference was an extremely important one, and probably will only grow in the future, right?
No, definitely. We love that about this conference is, you know, it's not a training. You know, most of the people there are considered to be, you know, top providers throughout the country that are already respected, and a lot of them are trainers themselves. So our summit is more of a networking opportunity for people to get together and for the top companies, our sponsors, to come in and get to know these people on an individual basis and kind of just grow this, you know, community organization. And like you said, the summit is not available to just anybody that wants to sign up and come to it. It's our way of giving back in some ways. We invite the top 100 and as well as the people that are listed in our directory. It's another thing we can do because those people are all highly respected in the industry as well. And you know, it doesn't cost them anything. They cover their airfare and hotel to come in, and we have an awesome time and get to learn kind of what's coming down the pipe from the different, you know, industry companies that are out there offering product or new procedures that might be working. I know this year MERS is going to do something really cool at the conference, and we're excited also to have Revision be a part of it this year too, so that should be great.
The advantage of Miracu is that, they have a great utility thread with the Forte thread, similar to the Midline. They have the biggest lifting thread of the elastic line. They have the mesh thread, which is, unique in its own right, great for nasolabial lines, great for tear troughs, great for glabellas. And then another important thing is that Benev is a wonderful company to work with a wide portfolio. So it's not just a thread company, but it's a company that has so much more to offer, like the needles, the cannulas, the lasers, and all the education and training. So as many people feel, I'm sure, it's about the working with a company that you love. Benev is a great company to work with, and so that's how I decided to work with them.
All right, Phil. So what I want to do is I just want to, social media is on fire right now, and I just want to read out a few things to you. If you can answer to some of these things, I'll try not to use their names, but these are just very interesting things. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. The first thing they have here is a woman essentially posted recently. She has pretzels and mustard all over her chest, and she goes into this whole verbosity of things that she's saying here. But the reality is that most of she's saying here is actually almost agreeing with what your business is. She's saying that you're an LLC. Yes. She's saying that you have business partners in the industry. That's true. She's saying that you have, the first 100 voters are injected by your peers, which is real. And then separately, there's another paid advertisement. That is correct as well. So, and then basically she ends up the thing and says, why should I care? Because I can't help it. I hate fake, except for my Gucci crossbody. So, I just don't understand, is she just attention seeking? Why did this woman do this when in fact her entire thing essentially agrees with that you're a valid business and that you're basically, out there like anybody else looking for paid marketing?
I mean, I can't speak on her behalf at all, and I'm not here to be negative toward anybody in the industry because it's just not what I believe in. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of ego in the industry, and there's a lot of people that love attention. And I don't know why else you would put yourself out there and, voice something negatively that you're not even a part of or involved in, because ultimately your clients and patients are going to see this stuff and they're going to be like, is this type of person that I'm going to get my services done that's going to just go out there and put negativity in the world and be like this gossip person?
Right.
So no, I personally don't get it, nor do I spend much time dealing in it. The only things that I have a problem with are when people just blatantly go out and make statements that are 100% false without doing any of their own research. They might hear something from somebody and go, oh, that's got to be true, but when it's not, it's not. And so at some point you do have to defend yourself against that. But opinions, I let everybody have their opinion. If they think the organization sucks or they don't want to be a part of it, that's their opinion. And I respect that.
Right.
I've never went and begged anybody to be a part of it. But yeah, like you said, I don't know what business isn't. Who does business that doesn't have an LLC or a corporation or at least a DBA? You would be an idiot to go into business without being incorporated.
That's business 101. Lindsay, that wasn't very professional. Why would a patient go to someone who publicizes her? You wouldn't do that in your company, right?
No, when they look on there all the time, and they form their opinion about you by the way you act, what you post. Again, his company, the paid advertising aspect of it, yes, I do pay. But the opportunities that I have gotten from that are incredible. I met you. I was trained by one of the top threading providers at anywhere. It has increased my ROI tremendously, right? And my skill set. Just for meeting you, going to your training, which also led me to other people in the industry, the Benev company. I would have never met those people had it been for you.
Yeah, one door opens the next, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, Phil, second question. So this is another injector, very well-known injector from New York. And she says, I got sucked in, paid 2 years ago, then after hearing them, asked to keep my money and take me off the registry because I didn't want to be involved. If someone pays you to be on the registry, what's the process for them to request to withdraw or to get off of it?
Okay, well, the advertising part, which we're talking about for the National Directory of Recommended Providers, if you're invited into that, once again, that's not open to just anybody that wants to be a part of it. Can't call up and be like, hey, I want to advertise with you. It doesn't happen that way. They're seeked out and invited by us. So if they choose to accept the offer once invited to be a part of it, it is a 12-month contract. The reason we do that is because we have SEO, we have Google AdWords, we have social media ads that cost money, and we need to know basically exactly what we have coming in order to fit that budget of what our spend is going to be over a 12-month period. So we do have two payment options for the people that come into that program. They can pay a one-time fee or they can pay monthly. The only difference in cost is it's a little more to pay monthly just simply because of our monthly processing fees. But that's it. But it's definitely not a month-to-month, because we couldn't have somebody like Lindsay, hey, I want to be on this, and then 2 months later decide after 60 days of making two payments that she wants to cancel her listing and pull her off. Now, if somebody wants to be taken out of the directory for whatever reason, we're happy to take them down, but they're still locked into the 12-month commitment because those funds were promised and contracted from the very beginning and needed. Plus, it would just be a nightmare of people coming in and out of the directory, of having to scrape the SEO to get their information out of it, because we're definitely not going to leave somebody's information in our SEO that only paid for a month or two of our services.
Sure. That makes sense. So third one is this is an injector from Connecticut, Northern Connecticut, and she said that there's this kind of minimalistic, zero information website, tons of red flags in her opinion. The website, I guess I have seen it, is a little bit minimalistic. What are you guys doing about that? How can you maybe show more transparency of who you are and what your company is about?
I think the biggest thing on that is people don't differentiate. They don't understand that my company is Aesthetics America, okay? The website they're seeing is just the best aestheticinjectors.com, which is just there to provide the information for people to go on and see a directory and to see who made the top 100. It's not designed to be informative. With that being said, though, because of a lot of this, I've taken some of this criticism to be a positive thing, and I've looked at it, and there's definitely ways we can be better about setting that up. So by the end of this year, we will have a new website up that will be the Aesthetic America website. You'll have to go to first, or you can punch in a URL and take yourself directly to the top 100 or directly to the directory. But it won't be all listed together where it's meshed up, where there's that confusion. And I think that will do a lot to kind of clear some things up. And it'll also, have information on our leadership committee, our advisory board, the people that we're involved with, our sponsors, and the projects that we're working on to build to better the community of aesthetics, from the things that we're looking to do, from our summits to the national accreditation.
Right. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think he's handling the questions perfectly. I think they're legitimate questions from people, information on a website and those types of things. But, coming from injectables that's highly regulated into skincare, the biggest difference, and let me stop right there and just say, I speak for myself at this point. Vision skincare is not part of this is my opinion, but you realize how big of the world that this is. You look at how many people get injected every year, and that number stays pretty stagnant, and it's relatively small. When you look at 320 million plus people in this country, less than 5 to 6 million people get injected every year, and you say, well, why is that? Well, you have to reach the consumer. The consumer is this whole other group of people, age appropriate, income appropriate, people, professionals looking for solutions to help them feel better about themselves. And so what Phil is doing here is trying to reach that consumer by making it very easy. The best injector, the top 100. People love lists. Consumers love lists. And so if you list this out and you make it very packageable and brandable, this can be a benefit. If, like he's saying, if you can get the accreditation, if you can get the buy-in from the larger community, and I can play devil's advocate here, and I'd love, because we've had this conversation, and I'd love to hear his response here. I understand if you went to residency for 12 years, if you're board certified in any plastics, derm, doesn't matter. You want to be recognized as the expert. And so now you have this list where that list comes in and says, well, we're the experts, we're the top 100. Well, then get involved. Because I think a lot of what I would like to hear from Phil is the trainers, the people who are giving the knowledge, the education that we all love, right? At these meetings to give a patient a better result, which is absolutely what the fact is. You want to focus on the patient result and get there. That's where we're going to reach the consumer that's outside of that group that's getting injected today. And if we can get that to the point where it's not a joke to have, a bad result, or it's not, something that's negative, then we all win. And I think this list helps push us in that direction.
Phil, what percentage of the list are trainers?
Oh, I would say a good 50 to 60% of the list are trainers. And what you notice if you look back through the last several years of who's made that top 100, you're going to see, that close to 60% are the same people every year. And it's typically the, pillars of the industry, the speakers and trainers that everybody goes to, and it makes sense. It's simply because if you're an injector and you're voting for your peers and somebody asks you who's the best, you're obviously going to list the people that have trained you and influenced you in the industry. So that's why you see those people in it. So every year we know certain names that are always going to be there, and they are. Then you have the other people that really do have to go out and get their clients and patients and their colleagues to support them and vote for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's good to get those people involved because they feel like they're giving back to you for the things you do. And let's be honest, patients love their providers, they really do. And so to be able to do something like that, they feel like it's like rooting on your football team. Oh, I want my person to win. I want my person to win because I truly think they're the best. And so that's a cool thing, in my opinion. And there's some people that don't like it, and they don't have to participate. There's nothing
Right.
against it. And I think, Scott, like you and I have talked about in private a couple times, when we look at that list every year, you'll see about 12 names on there that people really aren't that familiar with, that if we were putting together the list, you and I, those names probably wouldn't be on that list. But at the same time, we also can talk about these people that we know that don't have a big social media presence, that don't want to participate in this, that really don't need the business or the exposure. People like Jonathan Sig, I'll talk about, amazing guy, runs amazing practices. He's never made that list, but by far is he one of the top injectors in the country? Absolutely, the guy is. And there's several other people like him that would be on the list if we were just making it ourselves. But in doing that, it just becomes an opinion piece, and it takes away the kind of the credibility from the industry, from the people that want to be involved. And so our whole goal is to keep it transparent, let the industry speak for itself, and just be the supporting body to help everybody grow.
Yeah, I mean there's a wide variety of people on this list. I mean you have top like plastics and derms, you have top trainers. You have people who are just very savvy or social media friendly, right? With like hundreds of thousands of followers.
Right.
You have some people that are nobodies, but yet they're maybe up and comers, right? So I would say, and looking at the list year after year, I wouldn't say that there was ever a time where I'm like, wow, like there's a bunch of people on this list that don't make sense. It always typically makes sense, which is why I don't understand what people say. The other interesting thing is, one of my we all have our favorites, but one of my favorite injectors on social media is Injector Zoe. She just speaks it real, she speaks it loud. I like that about her, always have liked that about her. But she makes this comment, she says, I bet there are a few assholes out there that are sitting there agreeing with your post, but in the meantime we're promoting it. I mean, and because you see the votes come in, these people are campaigning for themselves, while on social media are probably taking the side of these other people, saying they don't want to participate or they feel it's fake and they don't want to be part of it. Is that true or not?
Oh, you do see that, and it is pretty laughable.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people want to be, oh, this is crazy, don't do that. But then there they are, campaigning, and you start seeing all their votes coming in, and then, and it's really crazy because you'll have people every year that will publicly say something negative about it, but yet somehow they end up on the top 100. It's like, oh, okay, so talked bad about it but didn't tell anybody to vote for you, it's like, okay.
Right.
I mean, you see it.
Yeah, the campaigns it must become obvious because it's very hypocritical, right? That they're in public saying that when you know in fact that they're working hard to be on that list, and it means we all want to win the competition. We all want to be on top. I mean that's just a natural thing. You put a competition in front of someone, and whatever that competition might be, they're going to try to win it, right? It's just the way it is.
Oh, 100%, and that's the biggest thing for us is we just try not to. We laugh at a lot of the negativity, but that's not where our focus is. Our focus is on legitimately bettering the industry and doing something positive for the aesthetic community across the board.
Focused product. I mean, that really is the mantra of Benev, is that we want to make sure that our customers are successful with what they do, have a good quality product, but are supported every step of the way, which is unusual in our industry.
The thing that
So Phil, a lot of injectors, just they always question the credibility or legitimacy of these votings. How they come in, who gets them. Can you kind of explain the process of how the votes come into you and what you guys do with them and how you essentially decide who those top 100 injectors are?
Oh, absolutely. When people reach out, I mean, before we allowed people to, in the beginning, we allowed people, they could either, email us in their nominations or they could vote by DMing us on social media. The problem with that is it was a nightmare to manage, and it got out of control. So we learned really fast that if we're going to allow patient votes, which last year we had over 50,000 nominations from across the country come in, that it would be virtually impossible to manage numbers those high if we didn't put it all in one place. And then we've also got some criticism. People go, how legit can it be? We're sending these nominations to a Gmail account. Well, yeah, because there's 50,000 of them. If I tried to send that to my small company email account, my servers would probably crash. I don't have enough data in there, space, to accept 50,000 nominations. So of course we use a Gmail account for that. But yeah, once it comes in, these people are like, hey, how do you manage these 50,000? How do you go through that and process it and know it's legit? Well, we obviously have a software, and it takes care of stuff. And we tell people you can only vote one time, but yet they'll vote 20 times anyway because they think they're going to trick the system. When the fact is the software catches it. It's one vote per email. And so when that email has been counted, anything else that comes on top of it is automatically just swept out. And the same thing, like if one IP address has like 20 different email accounts coming through it and they're all voting for the same injector, it's the same thing. It's going to clean it. It's going to pop that out the back. And so at the end, you're left with the raw data, you're left with the analytics, and we're not looking at 50,000 votes. We're looking at realistically about the top 400 injectors across the country will be at the very top of the analytics when it's all said and done. And then it's literally like raking the cream off the top of the coffee and going through those and looking and deciphering between peer and patient votes. And making sure that there's no error in that before we announce the top 100. So it's not near as complicated as people would think, just simply because we have the software that does most of the work. And that's what it's at. And it's also people like, oh, well, what's the numbers? Who's number 1 and who's number 100 and where do these people fall? We don't really look at that data. As a matter of fact, we're more worried about the difference in 100 and 101 and where those numbers fall than we are of looking at who had the most votes or who had the 5th number or whatever. We're looking at the cutoff, and that's where we stop it at. So in being completely transparent, I have no clue who was in the top 10 last year because we didn't delve in it far enough to do that because it just would take too much time, and our time is more valuable spent somewhere else.
Did you guys have something to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the details are what matter, right?
Yeah.
So what he just said, it legitimizes it. And I think being that minute, I've noticed with our elite retreat, the first time we did it, we put the rankings out and people were kind of mildly interested. Now, it's like technicalities. Everybody's asking, how do I qualify this way? Because tragically, one of the people that missed last year missed by less than $1,000.
Wow.
So those details, what you just said from 100 to 101, that's what really matters. And so I think explaining that, you did yourself a very big service here because that level of detail and sophistication should give you more confidence that this is something you should invest time in.
Right. Thanks.